Welcome to Potter Revisited, episode 33. Today we are covering chapter 15 of Chamber of Secrets, Aragog.
Or, as we like to call it, arachnophobia.
Yeah, I'm definitely with Ron in this whole chapter that spiders are like just a big no. Burn the house down.
hmm I don't like spiders. I like snakes. I like frogs, ghosts, sure, but not spiders. No, thank you.
So starting off with this chapter, it's just kind of like Dumbledore's been ousted by the governors of the school. The government, no.
By the government. Yeah, the government's like, out with you, sir.
The government's actually with Dumbledore at this point. But yeah, so there's kind of like this really big like feeling of dread in like the castle, despite the fact that it's summer. Everyone's very scared, and all the teachers are very like tense and nervous.
Except for good old Lockhart, of course, because everything is hunky-dory when you're Gilderoy Lockhart.
I found it interesting. Harry and Ron try to visit Hermione in the hospital wing, but Madame Pomfrey like won't let them in because she's under the view that like the person that tried to attack them will like come back and kill them.
I mean, honestly, it makes sense. I mean, given the track record of Hogwarts, they do a terrible job of protecting their students. And once the students enter her infirmary, their safety becomes her responsibility. So she's like, as the only responsible adult in this entire building, I am actually going to look out for the people that are my responsibility. And so, like, good for her. Like, I feel like
Yeah.
correct choice.
We had talked about how she's like kind of like the MVP of Hogwarts, like
Yeah.
the only like kind of like adult that actually,
Only real responsible adult.
yeah, only adult that really cares about the students. But I do find it interesting that that only happened after Dumbledore left. So like once Dumbledore left, they didn't feel like even the teachers didn't feel safe anymore.
Yeah.
So they're not taking like any chances at the moment.
Yeah, it makes sense. I mean, he's the person they can blame if something goes wrong because he's in charge, but also he's the one that dark wizards fear, you know? Now he's gone. They're kind of like, it was bad, and now he's gone. It's only going to get worse.
The only one that doesn't care that Dumbledore's gone is Malfoy, who is being like the biggest shit ever.
The biggest shit.
Oh, he's so annoying. He's just walking around like he owns the place because his dad's a governor.
Yeah. Finally, we got rid of Dumbledore.
Yeah, and he's like, I knew my dad would get rid of Dumbledore, and he's saying that he wants like a proper headmaster that will keep the Chamber of Secrets open. And I'm just like, you idiot! Like in this political climate, that would never happen.
Yeah. And also, like, Severus Snape, though he's laughing about it, does not want to be headmaster. Like, that's not something he would enjoy. It's not something that would make him happy. I just don't think he wants to have to deal with that crap. I think he's smirking about how much of a kiss ass Draco is, sitting there like, you're the best. You could be headmaster.
I'll tell Father you're the best teacher here.
I'll give you a good review on Yelp. And like, this is coming from me, and we know how I feel about Snape. I will give him a good review on Yelp. But Draco's just being a brat.
You have here that Seamus throwing up or pretending to throw up about Snape being headmaster.
Yeah. Yeah, Seamus in the background vomiting because Draco's kissing so much Snape ass. He's like, oh.
I do find it interesting that Snape's really only a teacher because he's doing like spy stuff for Dumbledore, and then he becomes headmaster because he's doing spy stuff for Voldemort.
Yeah. He just like he really hates his job. He really is like he's like, I don't want to be here. I still don't want to be here. Stop promoting me. I don't want to be here. You know when you're so good at your fake job that you just can't get out of it? That's got to be hard.
So while they're in the potions classroom, Malfoy like keeps being like, I wonder who's gonna die. Pity it wasn't Granger, and Ron's like being held back for trying to attack him. So you have Malfoy who's literally like wishing murder on one of his peers, which very, I don't know, insane to read as an adult. And then I do like how we have Ron like sticking up for Hermione because she's there to defend herself. And like you don't get this in like the movies or just generally in Ron's character in the movies.
Yeah.
And, like, justice for this Ron.
Yeah. They movie watched him, or they. Yeah. Because this Ron is great. And like, in the moments when he's afraid and he's thinking about the things that live in the woods, like the foreshadowing about werewolves and all the terrible things, what makes him decide, yes, we're going? That moment of resolve is thinking about Hermione. You know, he's going to be brave for Hermione.
I mentioned this later in my notes, but I do feel like Ron really feels the absence of Hermione, which is very interesting comparing it to the previous book where like they were not really getting along.
He got so used to having her around, he's like, I don't know how to do anything without her. Also, I like her, turns out, but on top of that, I can't do things. And plus, they have one wand now. When you think about the things they have to go and do without Hermione, they have one functional wand.
Oh yes. That liability. Well, moving into the herbology lesson, Ernie finally admits that he was wrong to assume it was Harry, and he apologizes. And he says that he knew Harry would never attack Hermione. But I'm thinking, did he think that Hermione would be hanging around the heir of Slytherin? Like, it's just so. Like, his whole premise for, like, thinking it was Harry was just, I don't know, it was just very circumstantial.
Suspicious. Harry was just being suspicious.
Yeah, it wasn't, and it was just like based on his character or anything. Like,
Yeah.
it is stupid. And I find it funny that Harry forgives him because he's like, yeah, whatever.
Harry's got bigger fish to fry.
But Ron will not. Ron's like really short with him and he's like holding a grudge on Harry's behalf.
As good friends should. Just because one friend is a bigger person doesn't mean the other friend can't take joy in being the aggressive, smaller person. You know? Someone should still be mad about that. I also think that, like, I kind of get it in, like, a 12-year-old sense of understanding of things. Like, I don't know Harry Potter that well personally. He's being very shady. He could have done it. But one of the few things you do know about Harry Potter is who his friends are and who he always hangs out with. So, like, they might not have thought too much about, oh, would the heir of Slytherin hang out with Hermione? Because they're just like, Harry might be the heir of Slytherin. Also, sometimes Harry hangs out with Hermione. But, like, once that thing they're so used to seeing, which is Harry being around Hermione, goes away, they're sort of like, oh, wait. You know, like, it's more noticeable to them, the absence of something that they became used to. And that's when they truly realize that, like, Harry wouldn't do that to himself. What is he going to do without Hermione? How is he going to pass his classes? Who's going to take good notes?
Yeah, I do find it interesting that, like, obviously Harry was acting kind of shady, like, but he's just in the wrong place at the wrong time. And I do find it really funny that Ernie's like, you know, that Draco Malfoy character, I think he's behind it. And Ron's just like, oh, really now? Like, so deadpan.
Wow. Only a few weeks late on that suspicion there, bud.
And then they go into the defense against the dark arts class, and Lockhart is super joyful and joyous, and he's like, why are you down? Hagrid has been arrested. He obviously did it. Everything's fine now.
It's another glorious, beautiful day if you're Gilderoy Lockhart.
I do find it interesting because Dean actually sticks up for Hagrid, and he's like, because Lockhart says that Hagrid's obviously guilty because the minister arrested him, and Dean's like, well, like, assumed to be, like, he's not, like, convicted or anything. So I feel like a lot of the Gryffindors feel really close to Hagrid. It's not just Harry, Ron, and Hermione.
Yeah, I feel like Hagrid, I mean, we only get things from Harry's perspective, but Hagrid's friendly and, like, clearly has a special friendship with Harry, Hermione, and Ron, but I could totally see him offering bad rock cakes and, like, bonding with other students, particularly if they're going through something or they seem like they're left out. Like, if the man can be friends with spiders, I suppose he can put up with a few 12-year-olds.
Can be friends with anyone. But yeah, when he's insulting Lockhart, Harry is, like, resisting the urge to throw a book at him. I'm like, you should have done it. You should have done
Should
it.
have thrown a book at him. Totally should have thrown a book at him. I just, like, Lockhart makes me so mad. Like, he frustrates me so dearly to, like, be going through this. Everyone has trauma. People are in the hospital. Everyone feels unsafe. And he's just like, no, no. The government and the police are on it. They'd only do the right thing. This is going to go perfectly. There's no fear because somebody in politics has decided that it is resolved and therefore it simply must be. And I'm like, huh?
I do find it very interesting that he's like, oh, the minister wouldn't have arrested Hagrid if he wasn't 100% sure he was guilty. And we know from the last chapter that Cornelius only arrested him because he wanted to appear like he was doing something.
Yeah.
He doesn't think Hagrid's guilty. He's like, I just have to take him because I can't look like I'm not doing anything. It's all about him.
And it's funny how, like, bad Lockhart is as at identifying, like, politicians doing politics things, because he's basically a politician himself in the fact that everything he does is for his own public relations, to make himself look good, to make himself look like the hero. So, like, he lives life like a politician but can't see that in other people because he's so isolated in how he views the world. Like he's so the center of it that he forgets other people have like depth and more to them than face value, kind of.
What a guy, what a guy. We do have this really sweet moment where Harry's kind of like to Ron, like, he sends him a note being like, we need to go after the spiders tonight, because that's our only lead. And Ron, who is definitely afraid of spiders, like, it's a real phobia. And I think it's kind of overlooked in the book and the movie for laughs, but like, it's a real phobia.
Yep.
And he agrees because he looks over at Hermione's desk and he feels like he's doing it for like friendship and stuff. And it's really overlooked, but like overcoming or facing your fears, kind of what Neville did in the last book. Like it's played for laughs in the movie, but like it takes a lot of courage to be able to face something that you're deathly afraid of, and they did it.
Yeah. And to go for it so sort of ill prepared, you know?
Like you said, they only have one wand because Ron's wand does
They
not
have
work.
one wand, and together they're almost one competent junior wizard. Like they're not exactly
How many spells do they know at this point? One?
Lumos? Definitely Lumos.
So they get the cloak and they sneak off to Hagrid's, and Fang is apparently just locked in the house by himself.
Well, I mean, they were supposed to be feeding him, right? But I don't think they were because they were on lockdown being overly supervised by the teachers. So poor Fang is A, in starving, B, has to pee so bad. Like the moment I read that part as a dog owner, I'm like, oh, that dog's gotta pee. That dog's gotta pee so bad.
Yeah, and they feed him fudge to keep him quiet. But
That's not what dogs should be eating. Also, like fudge in general, not good for dogs. Specifically if it's chocolate, very not good for dogs.
very not good if it's Hagrid's cooking.
Yeah, also Hagrid's cooking is good for nobody, exactly. So it's pretty reckless. They should be feeding him real food. Poor Fang. And also they gave him the fudge to get his mouth to shut. Like that poor dog has been alone, hasn't been let out, hasn't been given any attention or belly rubs, and now they're trying to like just get him to shut up without love.
And he's taken on this wild adventure where he's probably traumatized.
He wants no part of it. First he's like, walkies. He's like, I'm gonna go pee on this tree.
Yeah, all they say is, oh, Fang, we're gonna take you for a walk. A walk through hell.
We're gonna have the best time. And he's accosted by spiders, and we don't even know if he likes the car and he has to go in the car. Some dogs don't like the car, so it's just all trauma.
So they head into the forest, and it's actually Ron's first time being in the forest. So he's just going through Harry, sharing his wand, because Ron's like, yeah, probably I shouldn't light my wand because it might explode.
Why did they just get like do they not have like flashlights or torches hanging around Hogwarts?
I guess not if you're supposed to have a wand.
What if you're a first year and you have to go pee at night and you don't know Lumos because you're a first year and it's dark?
And you walk through the dark.
Scary.
Yep, Hogwarts is terrible. But walking through the forest, they hear something and they think it's a creature and they're all scared. And it turns out to be the car that's been in the forest. It's like the whole time, and it's all like sentient. Like it was sentient before, but now it's like wild. Ron describes it as, and it's the funniest thing. Like the car's gone wild, living in the forest. Like it's like an actual like creature now.
Good for the car. He's living his best life. He's living life. Never has to pay for parking in the forest. You know, never has to parallel park. Probably not too bad a lifestyle for a car. He could probably get on well with the centaurs.
It seems like the car also kind of recognizes them, which is weird, but I guess.
I mean, that makes sense with the kind of magic. And the car clearly has a bit of an attitude. So if you have an attitude, you have to have a personality to me, which involves being able to form memories and opinions. So,
Well, it does come back for them, so it must have some kind of attachment. But
yeah.
right where they notice the car is where they get ambushed by these giant spiders. And Ron before was like kind of like behind Harry, not really too enthused about following the spiders. Because he doesn't like them. And this moment, he's just kind of paralyzed in fear because honestly, this is some kind of like weird kind of immersion therapy that's happening right now.
Yeah, it's traumatizing. And they write it very well. Like it's scary. Like I'm reading it and I'm like, I know they're giant spiders. And like when they get to like the opening in the woods where there's just spiders everywhere that are gigantic, I'm just like, I am a grown up who's read it before and I'm like stressed.
Yeah, I do remember when we first got this movie, back when it was on VHS, we used to fast forward this part because my sister and I did not like the spiders.
I don't think our TV was so far from our couch back in VHS days. I think I was too lazy to get up, so I'd put up with it. Like I was afraid of the spiders, but I was also lazy.
And you gotta see like how much commitment it was to fast forward a VHS because it was not simple.
It was not. It was hard.
Yeah, so they're brought into the hollow where Aragog lives, and like you say, it's generally my worst nightmare.
Just a whole big gap full of spiders. And it's interesting because we get a little bit of like backstory. Like, Hagrid found Aragog and raised Aragog, and then released Aragog and found Aragog a wife, which made me pause because I have questions. First of all, a wife. It's not like a mate so that Aragog can have a friend and babies. It's like a specifically a wife, which implies marriage, which makes me think either Aragog and this other giant spider had a wedding or they eloped. And I'd like to see the justice of the peace at that elopement when these two gigantic eight-legged spiders come in. Just Hagrid standing there with like a handkerchief crying because it's so beautiful.
Yeah, when you wrote that note, I reread it and I checked both my copies because I have like a newer Scholastic copy that's American, and then I have like my original ones. And I swore I thought it was mate, but maybe it's just like I don't know. I mean, I think it should be mate, but maybe they put wife because they didn't think kids could connect like the difference between mate and like wife as like a partnership.
In the British people land and language, mate is like pal or friend. So like maybe it had to intentionally not be used because of its like, oh, he found me a mate. Oh, he found you a friend. Okay, where did all these tiny spiders come from? Yeah, I don't know. But I'm just like the mental image of like this giant acromantula wedding is just the centaurs are there shooting arrows with like pink streamers into the sky. It's beautiful.
I wonder if it'd be as interesting as the funeral.
They've kidnapped the Justice of the Peace to get him there. He's like wrapped up in acromantula webs, like reading from the book.
Harry's kind of like dropped in, and Aragog's like, "Whatever, you can kill them. I was sleeping. Why'd you wake me up, you stupid kids?" And Harry's like, "No, wait, we're friends of Hagrid's." And he sits on the floor because he doesn't think he could stand, and Ron's just like frozen in fear, which brings back the whole idea of like immersion therapy is done can work if it's done, in intervals. Not like this. So Ron's traumatized. I don't blame him.
This is that parents throwing their babies into the lake and hoping they learn how to swim type level of immersion. Like he's dying.
Yeah, interesting. So he has a backstory where he says Hagrid like got him from a traveler. And I'm just thinking Hagrid was about like 13 when he got Aragog. So like, he meets some random guy in like Hogsmeade, and like he's like, "Here, kid,
Here, kid, have an egg." I mean, Hagrid is a weird guy. I feel like he definitely is likely to seek out weird people who will have things like an egg. I wonder if,
We think that he went to the Hog's Head."
yeah, my theory is kind of like he's 13, but he's 7'4", so he's already drinking in the pub because that would explain some things. And the stranger sits down, and because Hagrid is friendly and drinking, they chat, and the stranger thinks he's talking to another like adult. And somehow is like, "Oh, I've got some weird stuff from my travels," and Hagrid's like, "Oh, show me." And then he just says, "You know what? Like, if you like went on a trip to the beach or like to Mexico or Florida as a kid and you'd come back and you wouldn't have money, so you wouldn't have brought your friends souvenirs, but maybe you had a bunch of like cute rocks from the beach you brought back for them or like seashells. Maybe that's what the eggs were like for this guy. He's like, "Here, have this weird egg I found in Tibet."
I do like the idea of Hagrid just like sneaking into like the Hog's Head when everyone else is like at the Three Broomsticks and like getting served, and then Albafor's just chilling there being like, "The hell is this?"
Man, you're tall.
Dumbledore's like, "Stop serving my students liquor," and he's like, "That's a student."
Okay, Albus, whatever you say. And he'd get certain joy out of doing it, knowing it would piss Albus off. It's probably how it went. Or maybe he won it in a game of cards. Maybe like he won the egg in a game of cards. It seems like something that would happen to
Yeah,
Hagrid.
but we do kind of see the appreciation, like this creature like loves Hagrid, and it's like devotes its life around Hagrid, and it doesn't care about other humans.
I don't know if it loves Hagrid. It appreciates and respects Hagrid.
Well, like he is angry, like on Hagrid's behalf. Like Harry tells him that he's been arrested for opening the Chamber of Secrets, and he's like, "That's a lie. He never did it." And it's like they did this last time and they were wrong, and he's just very upset on Hagrid's behalf. So like,
Yeah. He definitely cares about Hagrid, but like it would completely destroy Hagrid if Harry, Hermione, and Ron were eaten by spiders. So I feel like he doesn't care about Hagrid that much.
well, he cares about Hagrid, but Hagrid only.
Yeah. So not Hagrid's happiness, but his physical body. He's allowed to continue to exist. That'll make Spider Boy happy, but
Well, he's a monster, or I guess a creature. So like, he doesn't like humans by nature, but Hagrid raised him.
I mean, same, but I'm not gonna eat them.
Well, that's just their nature. So yeah, Harry is kind of like talking, shooting the shit with the spider, and gets all this background info.
Just like, "Oh yeah, Hagrid's my best friend. I love him. I love his fudge."
And Harry's kind of like, like, okay, glad to know it wasn't Hagrid. We're gonna go now. And he's like, haha, you thought.
Nice seeing you. Have a good afternoon. Bye.
Yeah, so they were about to be spider food, and Harry actually, it was really funny, it describes him as wanting to stand up and get, like, his stance ready. He knows he's gonna die, but he wants to die fighting, which is so Gryffindor, so Harry.
Yeah, classic Potter. We Slytherins would be like trying to come up with a plan. We'd be like, you think we're delicious. What if we tricked 7 other students to come here and get eaten instead of us? You'd be so much more full. Like, that's what I'd be. I don't know if I'd actually bring them to get eaten, but I'd certainly be trying to talk my way out of it.
It's just so Harry to me that, like, all throughout the series, like, whenever he almost dies, he's like, he's very much, like, ready to die, but he has, like, a way he wants to die. He's like,
it's like he's already living on borrowed time, kind of in his own mind. So he's like, well,
I'm gonna die, but I want to die like a hero. I'm not gonna die cowering. Yeah, so he gets ready to, like, do his, like, only spell he knows. He knows he's not gonna win, but he's, like, thinking of, like, spells to use, that, but he knows he's gonna die. And then out of nowhere, the car comes for them.
car.
So the car apparently has forgiven them for the Whomping Willow incident, and they are rescued.
Or it's kind of like annoyed but fond of them. You know, kind of like, oh, you rascals, always getting into trouble. Can't you just stay where I put you? You know?
So Ron is actually able to move at this point, because Harry's just kind of like, get Fang and get in the car, and Ron moves.
Thank you for getting Fang, by the way. They were like, I was like, you know, some people would have left Fang, and Fang is important.
But they felt like, no, Fang is important to Hagrid, and they care about Hagrid, so...
They would be villains if they left that dog in the woods. The entire franchise would change if they abandoned the dog they dragged into the woods to be eaten by spiders.
So they are rescued from the forest by the car, and the car kind of throws them out back at Hagrid's house, and it goes back into its domain in the forest now, where it lives, apparently.
And Fang is so done with them. He's like, I am out of here. You guys.
Yeah, he, like, runs back into, like, the house with his tail between his legs, like, traumatized, and Ron, and he goes and throws up, and he's, like, super mad at Hagrid, and he's just, like... He's basically having, like, a panic attack almost. Like, he has all, like, the symptoms of having, like...
Absolutely, yeah. He's definitely, I think he's the throwing up, the shaking. I mean, for sure he's having a panic attack.
Yeah, and he's upset because he feels like he went through all this trauma, and he's like, we didn't really learn anything besides the fact that Hagrid's innocent, and they already kind of felt that he was innocent.
And also there's some scary stuff in the woods. Like, actually. Never mind werewolves. I'll take a werewolf. That's fine.
Like, Ron goes back and he kind of, like, bundles in his bed, and he's just kind of, like, trying to forget, which, relatable. Like, after a panic attack, all you want to do is just kind of, like, disassociate. So Ron goes, and he's just kind of, like, you know, trying to forget that it's ever happened. He's been through a big trauma, and Harry's just kind of thinking of all the information they got, and he's upset because they're running out of, like, leads to follow, and he wants to find who's doing this and help Hermione.
He doesn't want it to become a cold case.
He compares the monster to a sort of monster Voldemort, as they won't say what it is, which I found really funny.
A monster Voldemort. It's just a big nose. It's the one part of Voldemort that isn't Voldemort. It's just a giant nose that eats people.
Yeah, so Harry's like, oh, obviously Tom Riddle got the wrong person because there has to be multiple monsters in the school, not really thinking that Tom Riddle is, like, kind of devious or evil at this point. And he's like, so it obviously wasn't, like, Aragog wasn't the creature, so Hagrid's innocent, so it had to be someone else. And he's kind of comparing, is it the same person who it was last time, or is it someone different? Kind of like a little bit of foreshadowing. And at the end, he connects the fact that the person that died was found in a bathroom. And who do they know who died in a bathroom?
Good old Moaning Myrtle.
So it all kind of blends together at this point.
It's one of those late night thoughts you have. I used to have to keep a notebook next to my bed if I woke up in the middle of the night with a really good idea. And then sometimes I'd wake up in the morning and I'd read it and I'd be like, that what? Like, what? Why would I smash up and crumple goldfish crackers on top of mac and cheese? That's crazy. Why was that what I thought at 3 a.m.?
Those late night thoughts. But I do really like the idea of, like, how Harry kind of works it all together in his mind, where he's just going through all, like, their leads and, like, where the information that they collected from him and where it kind of landed, that he's able to jump to the conclusion, like, oh, it must be Moaning Myrtle.
Unless other people had died in the bathrooms at Hogwarts, but that would have been a bit concerning. I mean, Hermione almost died in a bathroom at Hogwarts in first year, but...
Well, that's the only person that he knows.
Yeah.
Yeah, at this point, it's a leap, but it's the only leap he has. And at this point, him and Ron are, like, desperate for any kind of information.
All right. Thanks for coming out, listeners.
Yeah, thank you so much for listening to this episode. And we'll be back next time to discuss Chapter 16, The Chamber of Secrets.
Wow, self-titled.
It's happening! If you have any thoughts or opinions about the last few episodes, you can email them to potterrevisited@gmail.com, or you can reach out to us on social media at potterrevisited, and we look forward to your feedback.
Yeah. Have a good afternoon, everybody.
And we'll see you next time as we dive into the very Chamber of Secrets itself.
The very Chamber of Secrets.
Words are hard. English is hard.
The very, very Chamber.
The very secret Chamber of Secrets.
Okay, I'm hanging up now.
Bye.